Good morning. Today is Sunday, May 24th. We are going to be doing some Yin Yoga this morning. And Yin Yoga is a little different than Vinyasa in that it's based off of a little bit different principles. It's actually based off of Chinese philosophy and the meridians in the body, which are the Chinese philosophy energy lines that run through our entire body. So, and what Yin Yoga does is it's when we're practicing it, we are in fewer postures. We only do about anywhere from like 10 to 12 postures, and we hold them for up to 5 minutes at a time. And it allows us to release tension in the connective tissues of the body. So a lot of the time when we are stressed or we get injured or we work out and we're sore, we're building up a lot of tension in certain parts of our body. So Yin helps us just gradually release that tension by holding these longer postures or holding these postures for a longer period of time. So it's going to be a really relaxing class for everybody. You're going to need a lot of props. So grab a bunch of pillows, some blankets. If you have yoga blocks, those are always great. If you don't, I highly recommend getting some. And we're going to start lying on our bellies. So we're going to start in the first pose that we're going to get into is Sphinx pose, but we're going to start on our belly, just lying face down with our elbows out wide, palms are stacking on top of one another, and we're just resting one cheek on top of our hands. So we'll start there, just get into some slower, deeper breaths to sort of arrive at the mat and get your focus on the class and everything, and then we'll start moving through those postures. There also is something that when we're in these postures, sorry, I haven't had my coffee yet, so my brain is not working at optimum level right now. When we are in these postures, I don't want you to think about pushing yourself farther than you want to go. Like, don't think about like farther and deeper into a stretch. I want you to think about going to like not quite your limit of the pose, like pushing yourself, not quite pushing yourself to your limit, but like right before, to where you can feel a stretch, but it's not like super intense. And rather than just continuing to push yourself in these sort of stretches, like pushing deeper, pushing farther, come to that place right before your limit and just stay there and breathe. And that's the gradual release of tension that we're trying to achieve. So when you come to a place that's right before your limit and you can just soften and relax and breathe there, you achieve a way safer stretch and safer opening of the body and a safer way to relieve tension. So don't push yourself super far. Just come right before your limit and just breathe and relax and enjoy that feeling. So again, we're going to start on our bellies. I got to drink more of this. My brain's not working. Whew. So we're going to start by lying on our bellies. And then you're going to take your elbows out wide with your palms stacked on top of one another. I think you can't see my... Let me tip this down a little bit. Here we go. So again, you're going to need a bunch of props, so get plenty of props. You're going to take your elbows out wide and then stack your hands on top of one another. And then just rest one cheek, it doesn't matter which one, on top of your hands. And go ahead and close your eyes. And I'll tell you when we're about a minute or two in, and we can switch the direction of the cheek. The other option, if this is too difficult, is just resting your forehead. And actually, let's all do that. Rather than resting our cheek, take your hands out a little bit farther in front of you and just rest your forehead on top of your hands. And go ahead and close your eyes. And start to take some slower, deeper breaths through the nose. See if you can relax your belly and your pelvis into the mat as you breathe. The goal here is to get pretty comfortable and fully relaxed. See if you can breathe through your belly and through your rib cage as you inhale, so creating space and expansion through the belly and the rib cage as you inhale. And then as you exhale, letting your body just melt a little bit more into the mat as you exhale. See if you can drag out the length of your breath so that it's like this one long ocean-like wave coming in and out of your nose. And just try to focus all of your awareness to your breath, to your mat, and how your body is feeling this morning. Try not to think about what you have to do later today, what you did yesterday. Allow this hour to be dedicated fully to the present moment and to just nurturing your mind and your body and your soul. Allowing this time to be completely dedicated to just you and you in the present moment. Nothing else matters off of this mat except for how you're breathing. Go ahead and take one more inhale breath. And then exhale out. Start to lift your forehead off of your hands. Gently open up your eyes. And you're going to take your forearms into a number 11 position. So shape of a number 11. And you're going to sit upright on your forearms and see if you can get your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. So we're in Sphinx pose right now. So and then here, from here, I want you to think about pressing the tops of your feet into the mat, pressing your pubic bone down into the mat so that your tailbone sort of starts to go in the direction of your heels. And then I want you to think about drawing the shoulders away from the ears. So rather than sort of sinking into the shoulders like this, push into the forearms and the hands so that you can draw your neck or take your neck long and draw your ears away from the shoulders. So again, we don't want to be sinking into the shoulder joint, right? We want to be pressing into the forearms and the palms to create space and some length in the neck. And then I want you to think about energetically dragging your hands and your forearms back towards your ribs so that you pull your chest and your collarbone and your sternum forward towards the front of your mat. And then take a slight tuck to the chin, just very slight, so that your neck is in its natural position, natural curve, rather than looking up, looking down. We just want it to be in its natural position. Slightly curved. And then just breathe here. We'll be here for a couple minutes. And you'll start to notice over time some sort of tingling sensations throughout the body. And that's pretty normal when we hold a posture for a longer period of time. So I invite you to observe those sensations and just breathe through them. And know that like any sort of discomfort that you may feel, knowing when it crosses the threshold of pain versus just discomfort, right? So throughout yoga and throughout any sort of asana, any sort of yoga positions, postures, all of that, our bodies are challenged because we're not really used to putting ourselves in these shapes, right? So it's a challenge in that way. What we don't want to happen is to push ourselves so far that, or if we are nursing an injury or something, that these postures become painful. So if that ever occurs throughout practice, just don't do those postures. Just come back out, sit in a comfortable position and just wait for the next posture. But knowing, that threshold of this, like, is this uncomfortable because it's challenging me and because my body isn't used to it? Or is it like painful because it's like irritating something, or like everybody's bodies are shaped differently. So poses are going to look different in everybody's bodies. So it's really important that we are very observant of how our bodies feel in each posture. And like noticing like throughout each posture, just mentally scanning each part of your body and saying like, okay, this feels good. This is getting challenged. Maybe this doesn't feel so good. I'm going to back out a little bit. So just being really cognizant of how your body feels in each posture and making sure that it's that threshold between discomfort of a challenge and pain is not being crossed. So again, we may start to feel these sensations start to arise in a yin yoga class. And hopefully you're not pushing yourself so far that it becomes so intense that you have to back out, right? That's the point of not going all the way to our limit, but going directly before and like right before our limit of a pose and just relaxing and breathing and softening there. And it's just a much safer way to approach the practice that way. So again, I invite you to just observe those sensations as they arise and just making a mental note of what it feels like. And if it's at all painful at all, just back out. And a critical component to this class is the breath, and to all yoga is breathing. So if you ever feel like your mind is sort of going elsewhere, you can always redirect your focus back to those deep, slow breaths. And that's what meditation really is. It's the practice of redirecting your awareness away from the outside world and redirecting it to inside of you, into your mind space. So we're very slowly going to release back down to our bellies. So let go of that pose. You can take your elbows out wide and then start to drag your hands back towards your rib cage. You're just going to press yourself up into a tabletop position on hands and knees. And you're going to readjust yourself. So we're going to come into child's pose for our next posture, and we're going to hold this for a few minutes. So if this is, I'll offer some prop adjustments if this is difficult for you, but you're going to take your knees wider than your hips. I like to take them almost as wide as my mat, and then your toes come to touch together. Big toes are touching together. And then you're going to sink your hips back towards your heels. And then you're going to walk your hands forward towards the front of your mat, so far forward that you can sink your chest down towards the mat in between your thighs, and then rest your forehead onto the mat. So a couple of options here, if this is really challenging for you, is to place a pillow, some sort of large bolster underneath your chest and your head, so that you're resting more on that. Another option, if it's tough on your knees, is to place a blanket in the creases of your knees, right? So in the the underside of your knees. So if that is more comfortable for you, I encourage you to use those props as you need them. We're going to be here for a couple minutes. And you may start to notice those tingling sensations already starting to come up in the inner groin, maybe the tops of the feet. And just observe them. Observe how it's feeling, knowing that any of this discomfort that you may be feeling, and it may be just discomfort because you're not used to those sorts of sensations, right? So it's just the unknown and something that you're not familiar with or comfortable with. So when we're in these postures and we're holding them for a long period of time, the breath is your guide. So you can use the breath to move you through these postures and allow yourself to sink into them, to relax into them, and to embrace them in your body. And in child's pose, when we breathe, we really can send that breath to the back side of the body, in the back and the outer rib cage. Child's pose is a really, really nice posture that helps with digestion. It helps stretch out the inner thighs and the hips. It compresses the kidneys and the liver, so it helps detox the body a little bit. And most importantly, it helps to create a little bit of space and expansion and decompression in the spine. So it feels really good for the low back. We'll be here for another 30 seconds or so. Continuing to breathe as deeply as you can. Very slowly, at the end of your next exhale, you're going to start to hinge forward and come back up onto your hands and knees in tabletop position. And then take your knees closer together. We're going to come into a low lunge position and start to work into the hips and the hips a little bit more. So you're going to come up onto your fingertips and take your right knee and bend it and place the sole of your foot in between your hands. I recommend getting a blanket or a pillow and placing it underneath your left knee here. So I'm going to grab this blanket. It's out of the way. And I'm just going to place it underneath my knee just for some cushion, especially for those who have knee problems, runners, that sort of thing. It's nice to have a little bit of cushion underneath that kneecap, especially if you're suffering from patellar tendonitis, like myself. So we're going to come upright into this lunge position, and you're going to start to walk your foot a little bit farther forward, your right foot, and start to just sink into that hip a little bit. So I'm going to place my hands, and I encourage you to do the same, just for some balance. Place the tops of your hands place your palms of your hands on the top of your knee, and just start to move in and out, just slight bend forward. And find that space that's right before your limit, right, of this stretch. So somewhere that's, you're not like completely pushing yourself into it, but find that space where you're like, okay, this, I could hold this for a while. This feels pretty good. And you're going to find that space and you're just going to close your eyes and start to breathe deeply into the sensations of that left hip flexor and the left quad. If you find that you're sort of unbalanced here, you can walk your right foot towards the outer edge of your mat just to widen your stance a little bit so that you're a little bit more balanced here. Continuing to breathe as deep as you can. Knowing that this is all temporary can make this pose a little bit easier to hold, right? So we're only going to be here for another minute and a half, but all of those like sensations that are coming up in maybe the knee, the top of the foot, redirect. If you find that it's really distracting, just redirect your awareness back to your breath. We'll be here for another few seconds. Take a couple more deeper breaths. And then at the end of your next exhale, start to rise back up onto that knee, so coming out of that deeper lunge. You're going to grab some props. So if you have yoga blocks, I highly recommend getting those. But you want something hard that you can rest your hands on. So that could be like a book, it could be a foam roller, it could be Lysol cans or something like that, but something to essentially raise the ground so that you can place your hands on and keep your back a little bit straighter. We're going to come into a half split position and just get into the hamstrings a little bit. This is not, this isn't quite a yin pose, but I find that for any sort of hips and hamstrings that it should go hand in hand. So we'll counterbalance, or we'll counter that hip stretch with a hamstring stretch. So straighten out the leg, the right leg, and come into this half split position. And I want you to have a 90-degree angle on that left leg. And then this is where those blocks come into play, or those props where you can just stay upright and have this be a gentler hamstring stretch, right? So rather than curling over and crunching into this, we're just going right before our limit and we're just softening and breathing here. We'll just be here for a minute or so. Allow yourself to relax and breathe. Take one more deep breath in through your nose. And a deep breath out. On your next inhale, you're going to start to bend into that right knee again. So taking that right foot, dragging it back. And we're going to come into a lunging twist. So we're coming back into our lunge. I'm going to drag my left knee back a little bit farther. And this is, again, this is totally, it may look different in your practice, just depending on the way that your body is structured, how open your hips are, that sort of thing. And I'm going to place one of those blocks, place a block on the inside of your right foot, and place your left palm on the inside, or place the left palm on that block. I'm going to take my right hand to my hip and start to turn your shoulders open and your collarbone and your chest towards the right side of the room, towards the right side of your mat. So we're in this twisting pose. And then reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. Spread your fingers wide. Reach as high as you can go. See if you can turn your sternum and your collarbones up towards the ceiling. And we're just going to hold here for about 2 minutes and breathe. You may need to walk your right foot closer to the right side of your mat and take your the block in your left hand a little bit farther towards the left side. So just creating a little bit more space where that block in the foot is. So you should feel this in the inner right groin, the inner thigh, and you should feel this definitely in the spine and then in the right shoulder as well. And just breathe. And then it's important that we don't sink into that left shoulder when we're in this position. So really press out of that hand, and so that you can create some space between the left shoulder and the left ear. So we don't want to be sinking into that shoulder. We want to press into it so that we're nice and long in the neck. And engaging our muscles rather than sinking into the joints. Breathing through those sensations that may start to arise. You may be inclined to fidget. Just try to breathe through those desires and those inclinations to try to move and fidget and adjust. Just here for another minute. And then very gently, you're going to start to release that right hand and bring it back towards your right thigh. And just come out of that deeper lunge. We're going to pigeon. Okay, so from here, you have to remove the props out of the way. Anything that you are sort of using on your hands. So we're in this low lunge. Take your fingertips down to the floor and start to toe heel walk that right foot behind your right or your left hand, all the way towards the outer edge of the left outer edge of your mat, left side. And then you're going to drop that right knee behind your right wrist. So your right leg should be at an angle, not parallel towards the mat, but sort of at an angle at your mat. And then you're going to take that left leg and the left knee and drag it backwards towards the back of your mat so that you can rest the heel of the right foot underneath the left hip flexor. So we're in pigeon pose. Can't remember what it's called in the end. It's a different name, but you may need a pillow underneath your right hip here. So if your hips are pretty tight, take a pillow and place it underneath the right hip and the right glute. And then from here, you're going to walk your hands out a little bit farther, and you may need a block or a bolster or something to rest your hands or your forearms on. And we're just going to be here for about 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. And then just check down at your left foot and make sure that your left heel is pointed straight up towards the ceiling and not sort of dropping to one side or the other. So you should definitely feel this in the outer right hip. And take this, again, we don't want to go to our limit with this posture. We want to go directly before. So it'll look different for everybody, right? So some people their hips naturally externally rotate really far. So this is an easy stretch for them because their hip space is just structured that way. And they can just rotate it really easily. But for a lot of us, it's a little bit more challenging. So we are definitely stretching those outer gluteus medius muscles and ligaments and all of that. So I encourage you to pay attention to where that limit is and go before that and just soften rather than pushing yourself farther than you need to go. There's nobody around to watch you, you don't need to impress anybody. And come back to the breath if you found that your thoughts are starting to go a little haywire. So we're breathing those long, slow, deep breaths in and out the nose. Be here for a little bit longer. Go ahead and take one more deep breath in and a deep breath out. Start to push yourself back up to an upright position. Remove any props you have out of the way. And you're going to tuck your toes, your left toes underneath you and lift. Actually, no, we're just going to tuck our toes underneath us and start to drag that knee, the right knee, back towards center, the foot, and then just take our right knee next to the left. So just come out of the pose in a safe way. You're just going to sit back into a modified child's pose with your knees together for a moment. And just allow that right hip to reset. Noticing the sensations of returning it to a neutral position, what that feels like. Noticing how it feels compared to the left hip. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, we're going to return to hands and knees and move through that little sequence on the other side. So come up onto your fingertips and then take your left foot and step it in between your hands. So we're going to come into that lunge on the left side. So rise up so that you're on top of that right knee. And then you can start to walk the left foot a little bit farther forward and just sink into that right hip a little bit. I want you to keep the left knee right over the left ankle. So don't let it go forward or back. Just stack it right on top. So you notice that I'm not like really far into this pose, right? So I'm just going right before my limit, right? So you don't want to push yourself super far. You just want to go to a place that is comfortable enough that you can hold it for a few minutes, right? And just stacking your palms on top of your knee. Maybe you close your eyes. If you find that you're a little off balance, just walk the left foot towards the left side of your mat to just widen your stance so that you can balance a little bit better in this position. And just hold here and breathe. Allowing those sensations in the right hip flexor and in the right quad to come into your awareness and focus your energy and your consciousness towards your breath and towards that sensation, right? So really, really feeling these poses, noticing the subtle changes in your body throughout the entire pose, the length of time that we hold it for. Take another deep breath in and a deep breath out. Slowly start to come back up to upright position. You're going to grab those props and we're going to counter the pose with half split. So grabbing the props to rest your hands on, you're going to straighten out that left leg, flex the left foot, and then just come back a little bit, bring your hips a little bit farther back. And stay as upright as you can so that you have a nice long spine, and then your right leg is sort of at a 90-degree angle. And we'll just be here for a minute or so. So again, we don't want to crunch into this, we don't want to fold into this, just come to a point where you're right before your limit and just breathe and soften there. Let that tension gradually release. Take one more deep breath in. And as you exhale, start to bend into that left knee again. You're going to take the left knee or left foot towards the outer edge of the left side of your mat, and then take a block or a prop underneath your right shoulder. Place the right palm onto that block. You're going to take your left hand to your left hip, and you may need to drag the left or the right knee back a little bit farther. Start to open up your shoulders and twist your torso, opening the shoulders and the chest towards the left side of the room. And then start to reach your left arm up towards the ceiling or coming into this twisting variation. Press into that right palm so that you're not sinking into that shoulder, but you're using the strength of your arm to hold you upright. See if you can find that twist through the upper thoracic spine. holding here for a few minutes. Find your breath. Start to breathe through those sensations in the inner left groin, the inner left thigh, the left shoulder. What does it feel like to press the left foot into the mat firmly? What does that feel like in that? How does that change the pose for you? You let your hips sink down into the ground and then you press your left foot into the mat to engage that left leg. What does that feel like? How does that make the pose different? Here for another 30 seconds or so. Embracing those tingling sensations, that stretching. Take a big, deep breath in through the nose. And a big breath out. Gently release that left arm to frame your left foot. Start to come back onto that right knee. Take your hips back farther. And then you're gonna remove that prop out of the way underneath your right, or in your right hand. You're gonna start to toe heel walk the left foot towards the right side of your mat. So I think about taking it closer to the left or the right hip. So again, we want it at an angle. So you notice that right now this leg is parallel to the top of the mat. I'm going to bring my knee forward and keep my left foot flexed. And I'm going to drop the left knee right behind my left wrist. I'm literally touching my left wrist with my left knee. And then from here, you drag that right knee and that right foot back so that the left heel is directly under the right hip flexor. And then just take a look back at your right foot. Make sure that your heel is pointed right up towards the ceiling. You may need a pillow and place it underneath that left glute. And from here, you can take your props, rest your forearms down, and find any sort of comfortable position here. And again, we don't want to go to our limit with this pose. We just want to go right before that and allow our body to relax and soften here. Keep the left foot flexed. Just breathe. Breathe through those sensations in the outer left hip, the outer left glute. We'll be here for another minute or so. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And a big breath out. Start to come up right onto your hands. And tuck your right toes underneath you and just draw your right knee up towards your heel of your left foot. And then just take your left foot and straighten it out, eventually making our way onto hands and knees one more time. So for this next pose, you're going to need a lot of props here. So I'm going to grab, we're coming into a saddle pose, or it's a reclined hero's pose. I'm going to place 2 blocks, and you may need a lot of props here. So I have 2 blocks here, and then I'm going to grab 2 pillows. This. And then I'm going to have a blanket. So you're going to have this set up sort of like towards the back of your mat. And you're going to take your legs on either side, your feet on either side of that setup. And then take a blanket and place it right up to the creases of your knees. So you're sitting back on your heels. Actually, just scoot myself a little bit farther forward. So our toes are coming right up to that, and basically our tailbone is right next, or right to the back of the pillows. Right now, my blanket is right in the creases of my knees. We're sitting here. Eventually, once you get yourself set up in this position, you're going to lean back and allow your body to sink back into this saddle position. So having the blanket underneath your knees is going to help protect the knees. And then creating this little pillow setup will help as well. I'm going to make this even higher for myself. Hopefully this stays. See how it goes. So notice how high, this is literally coming up to the middle of my back. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep, that's perfect, right? So you have a nice, tall setup of pillows and props to lean your back on. Arms are open wide, shoulders are dropping off of the pillow setup, and you're allowing your neck to drop back a little bit as well. So find yourself in this comfortable, not really comfortable, but as comfortable as you can in this with a nice prop setup. And we'll hold here for about a minute and a half. And allow the front rib cage, allow the belly to expand as you breathe in. Creating space where all the organs of the body are situated. Breathing into the sensations of the knees, up the back, the shoulders, the neck. tops of the feet, the ankles. And very slowly, you're going to take your palms next to your feet. See if you can grab your ankles or your shins, and then take your neck and tuck it into your chest. Just tuck your neck into your chest, and then start using the strength of your core and grabbing into your ankles and feet. Slowly pull yourself upright out of that position. And then remove all the props out of the way. You're going to come up onto hands and knees, remove those props out, and just sit your hips to one side, and you're going to swing your legs out in front of you. So we're going to do basically the opposite of what we just did by coming into a forward fold. But we want those props again. So what I'm going to do, and what I encourage you to do, is have a blanket and fold it so that it's in this little hot dog shape. And you're going to sit on the blanket. So I have the blanket, and I'm pulling it right up to my tailbone. And I'm just going to sit my sit bones right on the edge of the blanket, right? So it's allowing my pelvis to tip forward. You also may like a pillow or a blanket underneath your knees if you have tighter hamstrings. And then I'm going to grab a bunch of props and basically do the same thing, same setup that I did on the back with my props here. So do this guy, maybe another block, maybe a pillow. Let's do this. And I'm going to place all these pillows right on top of my thighs and really plug them pretty tight up to my belly. And then I'm going to just pull forward over top of these pillows. And I'm just like reaching down, and I'm grabbing the props with my hands, and I'm just holding on to them. So this is a nice, just passive forward fold, more of a restorative pose than anything. It's just a nice way to counterbalance everything that we just did with that last saddle posture. Just allow your face, your forehead to rest onto a pillow, and allow the back body to expand. The hamstrings all the way to the back of the neck. This should feel pretty good after that last posture. Take a few more deep breaths here. And very gently, and start to rise back up and remove all the props out of your way. Oops. We're going to eventually come all the way down into our backs. So again, remove those props out of the way. We're going to come into a final twist. So one last twisting pose, and then we're going to move into our final resting pose, Shavasana. So you're going to come all the way down to your back, and then draw your knees in towards your chest. Extend the left leg straight out in front of you while keeping that right knee into your chest. And then guide the right knee across your body towards the left side of your mat using your left hand. Try to keep your shoulders, and I want you to keep your shoulders square on the mat. So your right shoulder should stay planted on the mat. If it's challenging for you to do that, place a pillow underneath that right knee. So you're here, and then you're going to start to bend the left knee so that the left foot comes towards your left glute. And then reach down with your right hand and see if you can grab that left foot. And then maybe if your neck allows it, you can turn your gaze to face the right side of your mat. See if you can push your right hip down towards the bottom of your mat. And just breathe here. Enjoying this nice twisting position. For some of you, this grabbing the foot may be hard on the knee. If it's really uncomfortable, just bend the knee as much as it'll go, and then just reach your fingertips down towards your heel. So you're not grabbing the foot, but you're sort of moving in that direction. And then if that is the case, just keep your left foot flexed. And just breathe here. Deep breath in through the nose. And deep breath out. Slowly start to straighten the left leg and return to center. So right knee is bent. Bend into the left knee as well, and just place the soles of your feet flat onto the mat. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Start to draw the left knee in towards the chest and straighten that right leg, resting the heel onto the mat. With your left or your right hand, start to guide the left knee across your body over towards the right side of your mat. And then start to bend into that right knee, and reach down with your left hand to grab the right foot. See if you can keep your shoulders square on the mat. So the left shoulder should not be lifted off of the mat. If your neck allows it, you can turn your gaze over your left shoulder. And just hold here and breathe. See if you can pull that left hip down towards the bottom of your mat as well. And breathe, keep breathing deeply. Take one more deep breath in. And another deep breath out. Gently start to release that right foot if you have it. Straighten out the right leg. And then drop your left hip down to the mat to come back to center. Left foot is planted onto the mat. Bend the right knee and place the right foot flat on the mat. Take your feet out as wide as your mat and let your knees knock together for a moment. And just take a deep breath in through your nose. And a big breath out. Take another deep breath in. And a big sigh out. Straighten the legs. We're coming into our final resting pose. So you're going to straighten the legs. Let the heels rest onto your mat. Let the outer edges of your feet flop down towards the floor. Take your arms out wide next to you with the palms facing up. Lift your shoulder blades off of the mat and pull them together underneath you. And then close your eyes and let go of your breath control. So just find a natural, easy breath. Notice if there's any parts of the body where you're still gripping or squeezing or tensing. And release, just let that go. Let go of that tension that you're holding on to. Relax into the mat. Melt your body. Let your body melt down. Unclench your jaw. Unfurrow the brow. Remove the tongue from the roof of your mouth and let it settle in the back of your throat. Lips are slightly parted. Eyes are gently closed with the eyeballs sinking back into the sockets. And just allow yourself this final moment of relaxation and peace, quiet solitude. Where nothing else in the world matters at this moment. It's finding gratitude for your breath, being able to breathe deeply, being able to practice this form of yoga. Be grateful for your body and all that it does for you. And I encourage you to stay here for as long as you'd like. At least 5 minutes. Just stay here, enjoy this relaxation pose. I'm going to just mute the video and shut off the actual camera. It'll continue rolling. Just stay here as long as you'd like and enjoy this last few moments. Thank you for joining me.